Healthcare is deeply personal to all Montanans. And I think we'd all agree that all Montanans should be able to get the same kind of coverage that Senator Daines and his family has had. That's why it's shocking in some respects when even the Washington Post would give 4 Pinocchios to your claim that will be protecting pre-existing conditions. Look, even before COVID-19, access to affordable care was so important to our economy and individuals. That's why we brought Democrats and Republicans together to expand Medicaid expansion for 90,000 Montanans and also preserve our rural hospitals to take on drug and insurance costs. But the whole time that Senator Daines has been in Washington supposedly fighting for us, he's been trying to strip away coverage for you, voting 4 times to take away coverage for pre-existing conditions like cancer and diabetes. Not with his hand in the pocket of the drug companies. As we look at drug costs are 20% of overall health costs, not even allowing negotiation for drug prices along the way. And when we look at the 90,000 Montanans, that 3 out of every 5 businesses in our state that rely on Medicaid expansion to cover 1 or more of their employees. The whole time that the senator's been in DC, he's been trying to take that away. I'll fight to make sure that everybody has access to affordable care. I'll take on the prescription drug companies, and I won't let anybody take your health care away.
Now we'll open things up on this particular topic. Again, a chance for rebuttals, follow-ups, and direct responses. And to start this segment, Senator Daines, would begin with you.
What you just heard there was right out of Schumer's playbook. I can tell you that because if you were to go watch the Senate debates tonight that are going around the country in places like Maine, in Iowa, as well as Montana, what Governor Bullock just articulated was exactly what Chuck Schumer has put in the playbook as they're running against Republicans, and that's what you're seeing parroted right now across this nation. Here's the facts. I serve in the Finance Committee of the United States Senate. I was part of a bipartisan bill working with Chuck Grassley, a Republican, and Rod Wyden, a Democrat, that we passed a bill that would lower the cost of prescription drugs. That came out of the Finance Committee. That was a bipartisan effort. In fact, I've been ranked one of the most bipartisan and effective members of the United States Senate. That bill passed. It would lower prescription drug prices by $20 billion and save the taxpayers an additional $100 billion. That's how you actually work together to generate an outcome with Republicans and Democrats focused on reducing prescription drug prices. This is a big issue, particularly for senior citizens across Montana.
Governor Bullock.
This is a playbook right out of Montana. We've actually brought folks together to get you health care. Senator Daines has tried to strip it away. He talks about prescription drug costs. It is almost immoral that Costco can negotiate the price of prescription drugs, but the largest purchaser, the federal government, can't. Steve Daines has stood in the way of that. That bipartisan effort, there was another proposal in front of his committee that said, look, for those essential drugs, let's make sure that these drug companies can't raise prices higher than inflation. Republicans like Chuck Grassley were on board with that. Cassidy, another Republican. Steve Daines stood with the pharmaceutical lobby. There's a reason why he's taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from the drug companies. When he talks about getting rid of Obamacare, that'd be $63 million of drug coverage that our seniors get. Steve Daines is with the corporations and special interests, not making sure that your health care will be taken care of.
Senator Daines.
Yeah, well, let's come back to a basic fact here. The governor raised $3 million from Big Pharma. Just never forget that. That's a fact. But I'll tell you what, the Congressional Budget Office took a look at that proposal that Steve Bullock just talked about, this negotiating piece. You know what it said? It says this: if they did that, the choices that our senior citizens would have, this relates to Medicare is what he's talking about there, that our senior citizens would see many of their choices for their prescription drugs restricted. That was a study done by the Congressional Budget Office. So while it might sound pretty good on a debate stage, when you really peel it back and look at it, what Steve Bullock just proposed there would directly impact our senior citizens and restrict the choices they have today for their pharmaceutical drugs. What I'm most concerned about is the direction DC is headed. You put Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden in charge of Washington, D.C., you are going to see a federal takeover of the healthcare system. That will put the federal government right in the middle between the patient and the doctor. That's where it's headed if you don't have a check and balance on Nancy Pelosi and the far left in the United States House of Representatives.
Final word to Governor Bullock.
This is about choices. And no Montana senior should have to choose between heating their home and getting the prescription drugs. At the end of the day, the $63 million of Medicare drug benefits would be taken away if Senator Daines had his way. You look at the fact that I'm going to fight just like I have every day, bringing Democrats and Republicans together to do what's right for Montana. We actually did it in our legislature. And standing in the way of making change in Washington, D.C. when it comes to drug prices has been Senator Daines. But it's even more than that. It's more than just those senior drug benefits. It's actually looking at things like Medicare as he votes to cut funding or even privatize it. It's things like Social Security, a risky scheme of a payroll tax that he tries to figure out so the wealthy and the corporations can get more money. Montanans deserve a senator that will fight for them, not the corporations and special interests.